Hello and welcome to another episode of But Have You Heard About Conspiracy Theory Edition? Dun dun dun! I am your host, Courtney, and as always, I am joined by Matt.
Yo.
So today, we have a doozy. Are you ready for this? Because it's one conspiracy and then 5 theories.
Ooh, so it's like, what was it? Denver Airport.
Yes, but no.
Okay. Are they're all like radically different?
Yes, but they all kind of point to the same thing, which maybe at the end you decide that you also believe in this conspiracy theory.
We'll see.
All right.
Probably not, but we'll see.
The theory is the world ended in 2012.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
There's a lot of possibilities that go with this, but I'm going to go off some theories, and the first one I'm going to go off is the one that I'm like the least excited about, because it's science, and I don't understand.
Science!
I don't understand science. On the 21st of December 2012, which is also the day of the Mayan calendar.
Right.
We'll talk about that
Everyone
later.
remembers that, yeah.
The galactic alignment that would create a combined gravitational effect between the sun and supermassive black hole, Sagittarius A, occurred. But it wasn't really as strong as it should have been.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, it was anticlimactic. Nothing crazy happened, so...
It was like, just a fun day, I guess.
Just a fun day in the neighborhood. Nothing crazy happened that day. All right. That's a theory. I mean, there's more to it, but I'm not a, astro...
I looked into
person.
this slightly when, back when it was more prevalent, like...
2012.
2012.
So this is theory 1. Theory 1 is that there was an astronomical thing that happened, and that's why the world technically ended.
Right.
But the whole ending of the world doesn't mean that, we cease to exist. And that's where theory 2 comes in, or plays more on.
Right.
So, CERN, CERN, which is the European Organization for Nuclear Research, discovered the Higgs Boson, or the God particle, on July 4th, 2012. A possible black hole was created.
Higgs Boson?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, even Stephen Hawking predicted it could destroy the universe, possibly cause the universe to, quote-unquote, undergo a catastrophic vacuum decay. So, cool. One of the theories, or one of the questions that comes with this, if the universe was destroyed, would we really even know?
Right.
And also, there are other theories about CERN itself, and we'll go into those later. So this is a great starting point for some of these theories, because there's a lot of things that come out of this.
Right.
Also, if CERN did destroy our universe, maybe we went to a parallel one that was almost identical.
Yeah, that theory is part of a Green Lantern story.
Yeah, and it makes some sense. The whole multi-universe theory has been around since 380. And
or like a universal reboot.
Yeah.
Where once the universe explodes, it creates a new universe. Yeah, it's always been an ongoing theory. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's a whole bunch of people that kind of buy into that, where that something happened with the discovery of the God particle, or the Higgs boson, because, as Stephen Hawking put it, to go farther than that in physics is going to cause destruction in some fashion, because it's man-made almost. Mm-hmm. So to go farther in science and physics, at least, for discovery...
It's quantum bullshit, basically.
Yes. Also,
stuff that is almost beyond comprehension.
Also, there was a viral thread on 4chan. I know, it's 4chan. I don't really take it. I take it with a grain of chapstick. I don't know. Again, viral thread on 4chan of all places from someone claiming to be one of the 23 scientists that claimed the planet was destroyed through the Higgs boson.
Just the planet or the whole universe?
I'm sorry. The universe was destroyed, and they created these Mandela effects, and we're in a simulated world. Like
the Matrix?
Yeah.
I know you haven't seen the Matrix, but you know what the Matrix is.
Yes.
Right?
Oh, no, wait. I think I watched the first one once with you.
I don't remember.
It's fine. But anyways,
doesn't matter.
One of the ways that they talked about it is that it'd be kind of like making a Russian doll effect of simulations and simulations, which also leads to...
the Inception?
Yes. But also leads to the Buddhist ideology that the turtle on top of turtle and that the earth is just a turtle.
We're just a blip on top of another universe, which is a blip on top of another universe. We're the flea on the back of a cat on top of a giant horse, which is on top of a turtle. Yeah, that type of crap, yeah. Yeah,
and to me, that makes kind of sense, because since 2012, on a personal level, you could think about, has the world felt different? I mean, if you went back to 2012 you, beginning of the year 2012 you.
I don't remember.
I mean, we'd only lived here for a year and a half. But if you told 2012 you Donald Trump was going to become president in 2016,
I'd be you're crazy.
And we were going to have a pandemic in 2020.
Right.
would you have believed yourself?
Probably not.
Like, the way that social media has taken over our lives, I could have seen that forecasting in 2012, but not to the depth that it is now.
Well, I mean, not to divert the talking point here, but like the pandemic thing, like people have been, I wouldn't say fear-mongering, but have been saying something's going to happen.
Yeah.
And it's only a matter of time. So I think that is also kind of predictable.
But I don't think to the breadth that it is now.
Sure.
Because even when we had, Ebola, people freaked the hell out about Ebola.
People freaked out more about Ebola than they did Corona, in my opinion.
Right, and I think it also has to do with leadership and how it was presented. You know what I'm saying?
True.
Yeah. So that's another story. So that is theory 2. It's a fun one. Are you ready to go on to theory 3?
Okay. Did they get more insane? I mean, the other two at least are science-based.
This is the insane one that I feel like you're going to enjoy.
Okay.
So, there was a reality rearranging event that occurred in 2012. And this was predicted by ethnobotanist and mystic Terence McKenna. Have you heard about the time wave zero formula? I'm trying not to laugh.
No. What is this, like, Avengers bullshit? What is this?
No. So it's a pseudoscientific idea. Pseudoscientific meaning that
it's not real.
It's not, it follows scientific, but you can't prove it with a scientific method.
Right. Basically, they use sciencey terms.
Yes. But it purports to predict the ebb and flow of novelty in the universe as an inherent quality of time, proposing time is not a constant, but it can be perpetuous or progressive.
Time is a construct.
Anyways, notable events in history could be identified that would help locate an end date on a wave. So you have these waves that apparently are happening.
Time waves?
Yeah. And by looking at them and what's happened and how those waves go, like if you think about like a ripple in a pond and how it gets, slower out or like it's quicker in the middle, we're apparently going toward the middle. So those waves are getting quicker.
Mm-hmm.
And there's obviously an end point where the rock hits. You know what I'm saying? So he's looking for that wave or whatever, and using human history with population growth, peak oil, and pollution statistics, he pointed to an end date that would occur around November of 2012. And the wave to this point started with the atomic bombing of Hiroshima and Nagasaki.
Okay.
So that would make, as a notable historical event, that's a huge event.
As humans, I guess it's probably more of a documentation problem. We've probably been doing some really weird shit for a long time, but because we're so good at keeping track of it now, it seems like it's piling up. It's probably just a perspective thing, but still.
Before the Industrial Revolution, everything was so slow. And also even the production of cotton before the cotton gin was incredibly slow, or the production of clothes.
Right.
So once you have the cotton gin and you're able to have cloth more readily available, granted it was at the hands of slave labor and that's a horrible thing, but you have just mass production of things. Mm. Until you have that...
Industrial age.
Yeah, the industrial age has just continued to make those waves quicker. So when we find bigger things, so having, atomic bomb is a pretty fucking huge big deal compared to, I don't know. I don't know what he was using, because he said he used human population or pollution, population, and other statistics about ingenuity that I just don't know how else you would find these dates and to come up with a number of 67 point something years from that way to the end. And he passed away way before, I think he passed away in 2000. Mm-hmm. So he didn't even get to stay around to see if, this reality rearranging event occurred in November of 2012. And if you happen to want to believe it, you can say that the election, Obama's second term was in 2012 in November. And if you hated Obama, maybe you thought this was a reality rearranging event. And who ran against him in 2012? Romney, his binder's full of women guy. Okay. I'm there. I got this. I know who loses. But anyways, that is theory 3. These little nuts, right?
He's a time surfer. Yeah. Surfing the waves, bro.
All right. Theory 4 is not very long. And I think it's a little bit more plausible when we think of the end of the world without necessarily, or the end of our universe without necessarily being a physical end. But we've reached the end of history. And it's more of a philosophical idea. Philosophers have talked about it, whether it's Hegel, Marx, and Francis Fukuyama. And while events are still happening, obviously, humanity has reached the end of a socio-cultural evolution. So in 2012, we just kind of ended when it comes to huge events. But I also don't agree with that. This is the one I can't, I buy into, but I also don't buy into because I'm but we're going to go to Mars. I just feel it, man. We're going to Mars.
Yeah.
I feel like that would be a historical event that would technically qualify.
A man on Mars?
Or even like a population living on Mars.
A civilization? Yeah.
Yeah, civilization. And note that this has nothing to do with simulations. It's just that there's stagnation of human progress.
Well, compared to what, though? You know? Well, there's a lot of things that... Man has definitely pushed the boundaries on reality. But there's some things that are, like, bound by physics that you just can't overcome. And yet still we attempt to do it. Like our electricity needs have gone through the roof. Or, like, let's say computers in general. Computer speeds. They're still making shit faster. They've, like, surpassed the speed of electricity. It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that, like, where do you go from there? So, sure, there's things that you have a hard cap on. You can't really harness anything beyond that unless you're getting into, like, sci-fi shit that, I mean, I don't know how someone would conceptualize that type of stuff in reality.
Yeah.
I don't know. But, like, in science fiction, sure, yeah, whatever. But there are limits, and I think people are hitting those limits as far as, like, in technological advancements with what we have in reality. So, but you could probably say the same thing when people in, 100 years ago, people were like, well, this is the peak of humanity. And it's like, yeah, not yet.
Yeah.
So we're probably saying that now, and then 100 years from now, people 100 years from now are like just beyond our comprehension as far as scientific advancements.
I would say even 50 years from now, at the rate we're going.
But still, we're not slowing down. Like, the progress might seem slow comparing it to, like, massive, huge changes, like the incorporation of electricity. Like, electricity's inception, sure, huge. The inception of a communication device, like the telephone, huge. Or the telegraph in general. Steam-powered stuff was huge. An automobile.
Mass production stuff, too.
The television. And these are just little things.
Well, and so I didn't write this out because I feel like this is something that we can talk about on another episode in general. Like, we can also go through the Mandela effects, too, on their own. But apparently, there was time travel with the government. And they could never go past 2012 because that was the end of time. So they could time travel back forward, but they couldn't go past a certain date.
And who said they had time travel? Just people? Crazy people?
This whistleblower. Again, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
I know, right? Look.
I got the inside deets on time travel, bro.
Time travel, I feel like that's a conspiracy theory, especially when it's coming from the government and that there's a whistleblower who apparently knows and we can't go. So 2012 was the year it ended because we can't go past 2012. I guess we can go backwards. I don't know. It's like I didn't know how that worked.
Yeah, I mean, if time travel were real, which it's 100% not, there's literally no rules to how it would function. Because everything that's science or sci-fi, everybody has their own theory on time travel. But if this
is science-based, that 2012 there was a rearranging of events or whatever.
So in theory, if this time travel thing existed, you wouldn't be able to go before 2012. But what's to say that you couldn't go forward within this new he untethered
out, and he started talking about this in 2014 and saying he was there.
Shut the hell up.
What if he's right?
If he's right, then where's everybody else?
They actually respected their position and didn't talk.
I guess. That seems crazy.
All right.
This time-altering fucking event or whatever, this was because the only way they could prove that this time-altering event occurred is because this one rando said that they had time travel and they couldn't go beyond this point.
It was basically this rando and his whistleblower possibilities only bolstered
that theory.
Multiple theories about 2012 being the end times.
Gotcha. So, like, Thanos just snapped his fingers and made a new universe or something in 2012? Is that what he's saying?
No, because we didn't lose any populations or anything. It's just we may have merged into a parallel universe. Or we went into a black hole.
So it's like Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or we went into a fourth dimension. Like, if you believe in a fourth dimension, there's an end date and a start date.
Right.
It's one of these things where I could get behind this because this is a conspiracy theory that I feel like you can believe without necessarily having to alter any of your views. Because you'd be like, The world's been shit since 2012. I buy this. Okay, we are on the last theory.
That was number 4?
That was like the tie-in with 4.
Oh, okay.
Well, I tied in because I didn't really want to write anything about it because I said we'll talk about the time traveling guy on another episode.
Okay, so number 5, the fucking meat and potatoes. This is it.
The Mayans were goddamn right. So, the Mayans had multiple calendars, and it concluded with this long count. Okay?
The countdown?
Sure.
Okay.
It's the final countdown.
Final countdown.
Okay, so the very first Mayan calendar, called Calendar Round, had 2 overlapping annual cycles. There was a 260-day sacred year and a 365 secular year with 18 months and 20 days. Every 52 years counted as a single interval, or a calendar rock, and after each interval, it would reset.
Mm-hmm.
So the Mayans realized far, far, far long ago, obviously because they've been around forever, they needed something for chronological things that happened or to relate events with wide spans of time between them. Because they really didn't have that with the way that they were numbering their system before.
Sure.
In 300 BC, Mayan priests developed the long count, which identified each day by counting forward from a base point calculated to fall on August 11th, 3114 BC. So the long count shortened. It would finish on December 21st of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
There's a whole system. I'm not going over that because I don't understand math, and math is hard for me.
Their math was crazy too. Like, it was very complex for the time.
Like, when we sit there and think about these...
Same thing with Egyptians. Those dudes were fucking crazy genius. Or innovative, rather.
Yeah.
So, back to the point where it's like people aren't innovative anymore. It's like, look at these people. These people were making some crazy shit way before people industrialized it and modernized it. Like the battery. Mm-hmm. Like, Egyptians made batteries. They were crap, but they existed.
They still had them, yeah.
They existed. So there's, I'm sure, plenty of things that we might be able to, like space lasers. Mm-hmm. Like, we're never probably going to get to space lasers in our lifetime.
We're never getting to Star Wars.
But you look on, you go on YouTube and someone made a lightsaber. It's a plasma laser where it's like so hot that it is 100% capable of cutting things. It's not lightsaber level where it's like I can cut a steel door with one swing effortlessly. But
we're getting there.
The dude melted steel like it was butter. He cut it like it was butter, and it was laser sword shaped. But he had to have a freaking propane tank on his back, like the Ghostbusters. But
Hank Hill was proud of this.
But that someone made a freaking lightsaber. It's not perfect, but that doesn't mean we can't perfect it.
So the long count calendar ended on December 21st of 2012.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason that we have this idea that it's the end of the world was supposed to happen was that there was a loose translation due to time wearing on this archaeological site that had a prediction.
Mm-hmm.
So again, people that studied Mayan culture from now, unlike Latin and Roman culture, which kind of, continued on.
Right.
Mayan culture didn't, so it sat stagnant. And you have the elements of the earth just destroying archaeological sites that have writings.
Right. You fall into the civilization that was ancient and vastly unknown. And you have to kind of decipher what was going on.
Yeah.
It's like dinosaur bones. It's like, what did dinosaurs look like? No one knows. There's no proof of what they looked like.
We're getting closer with science and finding more information or whatnot.
Sure, but you're in this predicament where it's difficult to piece the puzzle together, basically.
Yeah. So talk about that loose translation of that archaeological site, but it had a prediction of an event involving Bolon Yokti. I'm sure I'm pronouncing this Mayan god wrong. However, this Mayan god is the god of creation and war. Mm-hmm. Bolon Yokti. That's totally pronounced wrong.
Yeah, that's probably wrong.
So there have been scholars since these original loose translations that are hey, I studied this more. There are other possible ways this could be translated. Just like the King James Bible.
Mm.
But these other translations, these fancy people with doctorates, have translated that really the end of the long count was the start of a new era and not really destruction.
Mm.
So the god...
Lost in translation.
Yeah. Well, the Mayan god he's the god, Bolon Yokti is over creation and war. So we didn't really start a war in 2012 that I can remember. But it also doesn't mean that we didn't just, continue wars on or whatever, however they wanted to interpret that.
Sure.
I mean, the Mayans lived in present-day Guatemala. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
Maybe crazy stuff happened in Guatemala in 2012. And me being American, I'm very self-centered. I don't know what's going on in the world half the time.
Right.
If you look at it as the other part of his title, which is creation, maybe we did create a new universe.
Through sheer will.
And we got pushed into another plane.
Right.
And that's why you have a lot of people that have the Mandela effects, or you're seeing animals and you're like, this doesn't make sense. And again, we'll talk about these on another episode. So this is like a part 1 of like a part 7 series. Basically.
Oh shit, we're getting to this series now. I mean, this is a series already, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, this is a series in a series.
Mini-series.
It's a mini-series. Out of like all the conspiracy theories that we've talked about, and other than my fascination with JFK conspiracy theories that I totally 110% believe the government was involved in.
This one's along the lines of the, it's not like completely insane. It's more like, I mean, the Mayans were probably like, this is the end of the world 100%. And there's no one can tell us otherwise because they're...
But that's when their calendar ended, but it also didn't mean that they didn't just reset it. Because it was so long in advance, they also thought they were going to be around that long. Right.
They definitely did not account for that. But this is what I was saying was this one is very similar to the multiple, or like the center of the earth type thing, or the center of the world type thing, where it's like
concave and convex.
Yeah, well, it's like we're not just a planet. There's a planet inside of us, type stuff, and it's like that's a little cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, but it's like at least they're trying to use science to prove it instead of being like just wild, outlandish remarks, you know?
Yeah. Out of all of the theories so far that we've talked about, this is the one that I feel that if you believed in, I couldn't make fun of you.
Unless you're like killing in the name of ending the world on like if you're being violent or doomsday, like doomsaying or stuff, sure, then that's a little. But
if you believe that we're in a simulation or that we're in a parallel universe,
go for
something crazy, I'm not going to tell you that you're wrong because this is hard to prove.
You can't prove yes or no. It is outlandish to think that. Yes, I'll agree with that. Like thinking that we're in the Matrix is a little weird, but people have weird, like, out-of-body experiences and stuff like that. Like, weird types of unexplainable things.
And we have deja vu.
Deja vu, so that's another one of them.
If we're in a simulation, deja vu makes sense.
Right, where you feel like you've been here before, and maybe you have, and, or like the people that feel like they've lived an experience before that they've never...
or they were a past person.
Or a past person, that's what I meant to say. Right. Like children saying weird stuff that children shouldn't even understand.
But yeah, so that is the how the world ended in 2012 and the many theories of how it ended.
That's crazy. I mean, I wouldn't say that any of the theories are just straight baloney, but the idea that these things are a little more grounded is plausible. It's not like trying to say the Earth's flat. It's like, there's so much stuff to prove you otherwise, bro. And you're still saying something outlandish. The thing with these theories that, like, oh yeah, the world ended. It's like, clearly it didn't. But I'm not saying the world, like, blew up. Clearly it didn't. But are we in some sort of, like, bonkers delusion? Like, a mass delusion? Or, like you said, we get zipped to a different plane of reality and we're such an insignificant speck within the universe that we don't even notice, That's how can you prove that? But you can't disprove it as well. So that's the thing. Like you can spout nonsense whether it's true or not, but there's no harm in it in this particular case
because you're not trying to go like a cult.
Yeah, like our perspective of reality hasn't changed at all. Take this conspiracy theory and throw it out the window, and no one would even bat an eye because it doesn't affect most of reality.
Yeah.
It's not like saying the Earth is flat and being like trying to start like a cult about it. Yeah, that's one thing. Like these weirdos that do that stuff.
Yeah, like this doesn't endanger anyone's life. So I think again,
unless there are people out there that are doing that, then stop.
I like this one. This was a good theory.
Yeah, this one's more up my alley with it being not only science based but also mainly like cosmic. I mean, there's some non-cosmic stuff with like the simulation stuff, but like
that's it's like kind of cosmic beings.
Still, it's stuff that's like almost like scraping the barrier of like science fiction.
Yeah,
and I'm more inclined to believe that type of stuff where it's like it might be supernatural or sci-fi or however you want to call it in concept, but we maybe at a humanity as a whole just hasn't reached that point of understanding that what's happening, and we're just meandering through these events that are occurring, if they are occurring. Just to humor the theory that we just don't understand what's happening, and maybe there are stuff that's happening, but it's not affecting us in any way. You just mentioned fourth dimension, right? I like this perspective and like kind of explanation where it's like, imagine a universe that is two-dimensional and you cannot perceive the third dimension.
Yeah.
We're like gods to a two-dimensional world because they can't see us or understand or even comprehend us. So what's to say there's a fourth dimension that we as three-dimensional beings can't comprehend or even understand? That's a big theory. I mean, that's a whole philosophical idea in itself. Yeah. But I thoroughly enjoy that type of like critical thinking, like crazy thinking. It's not, I wouldn't say it's crazy. But it's definitely more out there. Yeah, it's out there. It's theoretical stuff. It's like, obviously there's no two-dimensional world that exists. But if there was, then a two-dimensional viewing point wouldn't be able to perceive a third dimension as we can't perceive a fourth dimension or beyond that. So, I don't know, it's just very interesting stuff with, you said pseudoscience, and it kind of is, because there's no way of proving it. But it's still science. Yep.
Well, I think that's going to conclude today's episode.
Fun. I didn't have to mention mole men once.
Well, this has been But Have You Heard About Conspiracy Theory Edition. As always, I'm Courtney.
Matt here. Woo.
Woo. And we hope you have a fabulous rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.